So yeah, so my name is Kevin Matteson. I guess we can sort of start with the introductions here. I work for Project Dragonfly at Miami University in Ohio. I'm actually the associate director for master's programs. I'm an advisor. I'm an instructor. And it's been great. I've been working with Miami and Dragonfly for about 10 years. But I'm originally from New York City. I grew up in the Bronx and then New Rochelle. And actually my first job was working at the Bronx Zoo. So this program that has these connections with zoos and botanical gardens and also with international travel really struck a chord for me. So let me hand it over to Sharon to, I'm so glad, first of all, that you're joining us, Sharon.
Pleasure.
But yeah, why don't you share a little bit about yourself so people know who's on the call tonight.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Sharon Spencer, and I am currently working at the Jacksonville Zoo as an AIP advisor and facilitator. It is a recently new position for me. I started remotely from my former home in Michigan in March, and then moved down to Jacksonville in June, and was able to be a part of all of our on-site classes over the summer, and now moving into fall semester. You'll hear more about that throughout today. I am actually a GFP graduate of the Project Dragonfly program and am currently pursuing my doctorate in education with a focus in humane education, which was a program that I discovered coming out of Project Dragonfly, and I just couldn't get enough of what I had studied through the program and just had to continue. So that's where I'm at.
Well, yeah, it's funny how lifelong learning, and we certainly hope that a lot of people come into this program, you just love learning new things, geeking out about nature and trying to find ways to connect to other people to nature. So yeah, it kind of just becomes something you might never let go of. So all right, well, let's get going because we do have time. We're trying to stick to wrapping up around 8:30 or so tonight, Eastern time, that is. So about 30 minutes, and we'll have space for you all to ask some questions via the chat, or I believe there's also hopefully a Q&A. Actually, at any time, if you have a question, feel free to post them and we'll try to get to them as we can. All right. So just a quick, little bit of intro here about Miami University and Project Dragonfly. So Miami University is in Ohio. I guess that's the first thing I need to make sure is abundantly clear. Sometimes people get confused about that. And it's a very old public university. It's considered a public Ivy. It's fully accredited, of course, has a really wonderful reputation, especially as a teaching university, teaching-focused university, and for its global programs as well. Very high percentage of undergraduates at the university do indeed go on international travel. And Project Dragonfly, which is actually not about literal dragonflies. I think probably if you're joining, you've read a little bit about the program, but it's sort of more of a metaphor, if you will. But it is housed in the Department of Biology here at Miami. And then the graduate programs are going to be largely online, but also have this really important and hopefully inspirational in-person components in the field internationally or at zoos and botanical gardens. So it's really designed for people that are working full-time or maybe trying to change careers or get into a career and that want to do the graduate work on their own time, but also not go into a fully online program. Okay. So if you would like in the chat, you can say hello. And I believe you all have the option to do that. Feel free to just post it to everyone if you would like to explain your location, where you're joining us from tonight, and which programs you might be interested in. So feel free to do that in the chat. That would be great. And then again, I just want to, mention that you can certainly use the Q&A or you can use the chat function and should be able to say hello that way as well. All right. So as those are coming in, I thought I would just, kick it back to you, Sharon, again, and just ask you, like, how did you find this program? How did you find Dragonfly?
Um, so I have 3 adult children and 2 very interested in conservation, and was seeking a program for one of them for her master's degree, and came across this program, and we dove into it together and explored the interdisciplinary nature of it, explored the travel aspect, the connection to zoological institutions, the social justice aspects of it, and so much of what makes the program so dynamic. And although it didn't work out for her, she was like, "Hey, mom, you should explore doing this program." And I was like, "You know what? You're exactly right." And it just really hit so many of the markers that I was looking for in continuing my education. I had started an aerospace engineering degree as a 18-year-old out of college, and just it was not what I wanted to do, and left and spent a good amount of middle life educating in lots of different ways, but not formally, and was winding up actually going back and finishing my bachelor's degree and exploring further education, because like I mentioned earlier, it just wasn't enough. And finding this program was just the perfect fit to, I can't say how much that metamorphosis of the whole Dragonfly logo played into my time in finding the program, through the program, and now moving on and still being a part of it. So
Nice. Yeah. And I love the idea of, like, mom, you should do this program. Like, and I have, sort of, my kids are in the teens right now, but when they were younger, and, it can be hard leaving them, right? And you also
oh yeah.
dedicate so much of your life to them.
Mhm.
And then there's a point, we have quite a few people that join us after being, so embedded as a parent for so many years, and they come back and they join this program, and they just are like, this was something I could do for myself.
And I really like to emphasize that point when it comes to now being on the facilitator side of it in class, and having a lot of students that are coming back after many years, either at home or a career change or any of that kind of thing, that this program appeals across ages and is just adds a very dynamic piece to be able to engage in conversations and talk about things that happened in different decades and in different time frames that we can relate to each other. So please don't let age or you being a returning student or however you want to call that be a deterrent at all, because this is a perfectly facilitated program when it comes to that type of thing.
Totally. So yeah, this program's for everyone. You don't have to be a bio major. We, in fact, really do try to promote and foster diversity in the program of where people are coming in. We've had artists, we have a lot of zookeepers. I see the zookeepers and people there, teachers, of course, people changing careers, logistics I'm seeing, and also people not sure, right? So that's totally fine too. And the other thing that's cool about reading the chat is just seeing where you all are joining from. And what's cool about this program is you will be connecting with people all over the country and even the world. I'm so excited to see someone from China joining us tonight. So just thanks all for being here and being a part of it. And again, realizing it is for everyone. So just to start with Dragonfly's mission, so what we really are trying to do is build this alliance of individuals with firsthand knowledge of inquiry-driven, community-based learning for the benefit of ecological communities, student achievement, and global understanding. So it's quite a lot, but I just want to focus on the first part, to build an alliance of individuals. So what we're trying to do with our faculty, with our advisors, with all of our program people, is to be a warm and caring group that is helping other people connect with each other, helping, bridge different groups and different cultures, and trying to make this happen actually out in the real world. So a lot of this started from, the very beginning, this notion of where education occurs, being in this classroom that's actually, set aside from the real world, right? And this whole other notion that you should go to graduate school to learn how to make real change, or that you should go to undergraduate to learn how to someday do these things. And so what we're really trying to do is embed education in these locations that are not traditionally like the academia and the ivory tower, if you will. So when we go on field courses to the Galapagos or Baja or Belize or wherever it may be, or when we center graduate education at the Jacksonville Zoo where Sharon works, or any of their great zoos and botanical gardens we connect with, right? We're trying to change this model of education and make it more community embedded. And we think there's a lot of people that are joining that are hopefully that resonates with. We know we learn best when we're actually active and engaged and, you know, doing things in the real world. So that's a lot of what we're about. And, you know, this kind of activity you're seeing going out, and some of this, you know, some of these activities, it's like we get to be a kid again and we get to explore again, but it's also learning pedagogical tools because we do have an MAT, a Master of Arts in Teaching, and we also have a Master of Arts in Biology. So some of the things you would be learning have more of a pedagogical focus and some have more of a biological content area as well. So I saw there's a lot of you, you know, interested in the GFP, a lot of you interested in the AIP. Some of you might just be thinking about standalone course. It's all Dragonfly, right? And it's all the same general type of people, I think, that really want to, you know, do better for this world, if you will. So the Global Field Program, you're going to take 21 credit hours, are going to be on 3 Earth expedition courses, and you'll take those in the summer. So each of those is 5 credit hours with a 2 credit hour continuation in the fall. So 7 credit hours for each. 3 of them is the 21 credit hours. And you're also going to take 14 credit hours that are purely online, and that's going to be in the fall and spring terms. So that adds up to 35 credit hours for the degree. For the AIP, you're going to take the same 14 credit hours online, and you'll mix with GFP students, Global Field Program students, but you're going to do your 21 credit hours with experiential learning at the zoo or botanical garden you're associated with. So if it's Chicago Brookfield Zoo, or if it's WCS Bronx Zoo in New York, right? And a lot of times people choose that because they grew up going to those locations, or they just live in that city and they have a deep connection to that place, and they want to have that experience of connecting with scientists there, seeing the behind the scenes, getting tours, and really seeing how education and conservation is happening in those settings. Now, if you're a little bit on the fence, like which one, it's okay. You can actually, in your application, you can indicate your interest in both. But I will say that if you're on the fence and you're thinking AIP, know that you can go on One Earth expeditions and have the credit hours go towards those 21 credit hours. So you can travel if you're like, you know what, I don't know if I want to do 3 summers traveling each summer. I don't know if I can get away that much, but I can do 1. So that's an option. So here are our locations for the Advanced Inquiry Program. We now have 10 of these amazing sites, and I won't read them all out because take a little too long, but just know that wherever you're joining us from, there's likely a location pretty close. I did see someone from DC, fingers crossed. We're talking with Smithsonian. You never know what's possible. Anyone in Texas, we are talking to other zoos in the Texas area. So we're trying to grow and grow responsibly, but here's the wonderful group we have now all over the country. The newest one is Detroit Zoo, just joining this year. We're super excited to have them on board. And the amazing thing about these locations is each has its own like specialty and is known for its own thing, whether it's something like pandas at the Smithsonian, or if it's, you know, humane education at the Detroit Zoo. So wherever you end up, if you're in the AIP, you're going to be in great hands with cutting edge people and ideas. Minneapolis would be great too. I see that comment. So yeah, maybe someday, nothing immediate, and if you're in a place that's distant from here, that's really where the GFP can be great for you, because you can join from anywhere in the US. And then even if you're living outside of it. So, okay, so I want to just pause at this picture because it's good to envision what does this look like in actuality. And these are pictures of the AIP, the Advanced Inquiry Program, experiential learning. And so this is where you'll do your online coursework, but then you'll have these days at the zoo or botanical garden, or sometimes you'll meet up at a location, like this is in San Diego, they'll meet up at a natural area where they want to explore together. So yeah, so Sharon, this is perfect question for you, I guess, because you've both facilitated these experiential learning and also been a part of them as a student. I mean, what do you want to share about these kind of experiences?
I guess two big things are the community aspects of them as well as the diversity of them. For Jacksonville this last summer, we did a regional ecology class and traveled to the Panhandle and connected with our striped newt conservation project that goes on at the zoo, but then went out in the field and saw the actual like release location and the conservation partner that we work with in the Panhandle that facilitates the release and the location in a protected area. So being able to make those community connections, that it's not just, you don't simply learn about what's going on at the zoo and all the ways that the zoo is connected to the immediate community, but that broader picture in the AIP program of being able to go out and see how broad those reaches are, not only in the immediate region, but globally as well. We have, partner projects in Guyana, and which is also a GFP trip. So just the interconnectedness of the dynamics of the learning that occurs throughout the program, and how it's not just purely or solely a science core, but you can come into it from all kinds of different aspects and study the social media aspects of how we communicate conservation. And if you want to dive into the biology and the science aspect, you can do that. If you want to talk about community connectivity and the social science aspect, you can do that. So just a wide range of how being at all of these amazing locations facilitate those community conversations and those diversity conversations that connecting us to each other and to our environment.
Great. You had me at striped newts as well. I think the Woodland Park program also has like a regional ecology course that does something with pygmy rabbits. And I was just like, oh my gosh, is that real? Just to answer a few questions I'm seeing popping up. Yes, there is the Cincinnati Zoo program. That's one of our first, and that's of course definitely still active and very close to Miami. And a good question about like a senior discount. Number one, I mean, I think it's so amazing. We've had people well into their 70s on these programs, both our field courses and the online and the zoo-based courses. So that's just an amazing incorporation there. But there's not really a senior discount, I will say, because the price is coming up in a few questions. First, realize, because some people don't, the tuition is reduced. So if you compare this program to others, you'll notice that it's substantially less expensive than most other master's programs. And that's because Miami really believes in the mission and wants to make this affordable as possible for people working in careers who, let's be honest, the zoo world, education tends to be where a lot of our folks join us from, not super lucrative. So we're trying to keep it affordable. That said, it still is money. It can add up. I think the last we looked, both programs, you can do the 35 credit hours in under $15,000 or so. And yes, that does include the Earth expeditions. Now, the Earth expeditions, I will say, flight costs right now have gone out the roof. So if you choose to go to like Namibia, Mongolia, and Thailand, your flight costs that are adding on to that quote I just gave is going to be a little higher.
Yeah.
So just kind of keep that in mind. We'll keep getting to the questions as we go. They're really good questions there. And Sharon, if you want to keep a look out as well, and we'll keep chipping away as we go along. So here are our locations, global locations, where we have field courses for the Earth expeditions, which are a part of the Global Field Program. The newest one, so yeah, we keep adding different things, but the Bahamas Cultivating Conservation Network, super excited for this one. This is actually our first course that's running in winter term. So this one's kind of, we're trialing this, testing it out, but all these other courses you see here, they're going to run in the summer, and they have different dates. You can check it all out. If you go to our website, you will find, if you click in on the tiles with each of the pictures of these locations, you'll find dates that we have there, and you can find out the costs, all the details, some of the general locations, that sort of thing. So you're going to spend about 10 days in the field in each of these spots and then do online coursework. I'm just back this summer from teaching our Belize course. What an experience. I'll just say Mayan ruins, all sorts of bird life, seeing jaguars at the Belize Zoo. And then the highlight for me, snorkeling in the crystal clear waters of the Belizean reefs. So absolutely amazing once in a lifetime experiences with these. Here's some pictures of them. And I'll just say, because we have a couple water pictures here, we have some people that join us, they're like scuba, PADI certified, they've been all over the world. And we have other people that have never snorkeled or even are uncomfortable swimming. And I will say all of these courses, we are going to support you wherever you're at. So we have different levels, and we're going to work with you to make sure you're comfortable in those locations. And then the same with bird watching. We have people that have never really gotten the hang of binoculars, and other people that have a life list with 1,000 birds. So we really try to just incorporate everyone. This is Namibia, and we also have the Kenya program, and this is our Galapagos program. So this is really the classroom. This is what we're about in these field locations. Yes, you can get financial aid for this program. That's a really good question as well. The only thing is you need to be taking 5 credit hours. So because it's designed for people working, in many cases full-time, or some people are working part-time or in between careers, that's fine too. But we generally have a max, people will have like maybe 5 to 6 credit hours total per term. And sometimes you might look at the course list and be like, oh, there's actually only one course I'm going to take this term, 3 credit hours. So when you're under 5, you're not going to qualify for student loans during that term. So the key is, if you're going that route, is to plan ahead. And when you do qualify, to get the funds that you need for the year. Okay. So there's this great question actually in there, and I'll turn it to you, Sharon, in just a second. But, what does this program prepare me to do? And I think a lot of our folks actually join this program purely, well, not a lot, quite a few, I think, are in the career they want. They just want some side inspiration. Okay. So there's that bucket. And I think this program can be useful in just elevating the current work you're doing, helping you maybe get a promotion, but also maybe just enjoy the work more because you're connecting with your community and doing different things that you actually want to do. That said, we've had people create foundations, get grants, create a whole new business as a part of this program. And we've had people jump from being an educator to being a science person or a researcher, and vice versa. So it's really up to you, but the 2.5 years, or you can go a little longer if you want, is yours to design your life and to use the courses to get you there. Sharon, what do you want to add on this slide or this point?
Well, I think that's one of the great things about the program, is that it is a very introspective journey along the way as well, and offers the opportunity to connect with so many different connection points in conservation and in education, just in life in general, that you can go off on so many different areas and so many different concentrations and so many different studies, that there's literally almost an endless supply of rabbit holes that you get sucked into reading. And you'll have, an assignment in class that presents a new concept, and all of a sudden you find yourself researching that and coming up with some new ideas or some new aspects to what you want to study or dive into. I know for me, coming into it, I kind of thought I had an idea of where I wanted to go with it, and I really would not have anticipated that I would be facilitating, the graduate classes in this program when I got out of it. But that certainly grew along the way because of the passion and direction that this program facilitates. So I would recommend just not putting limits on yourself coming into the program. You might think that you have an idea of what you wanted to do with it, but come into it with such an open mind, because there's so many different avenues that come into play, and so many different connections and community people that you meet along the way, that you may find yourself on an entirely new journey.
Awesome. And yeah, and we have all these publications that students, so there is a requirement that you submit something for publication. It may or may not get published, right? So, and we can't control that, but we want to support you all in becoming an author of an original research or original thought piece. A lot of that is about, growing in your own leadership in your voice, right? Because some people join this program, they're like, I never thought I would be published, and now I'm published in some sort of national blog or some sort of national journal or international journal. So that's a wonderful element, I think, of the program, and we're here to support you as you look into that. We've also had people that join this program, they already have a master's, maybe they've already published. So that happens every now and then too. So moving along, and keep the questions coming. We are going to get them. I see them in the Q&A, and I'll keep looking back at the chat. But the GFP and AFP, they're both designed to take a minimum of 2.5 years. So if you start in summer 2023, you're going to be able to finish in, I believe, December 2025. And so you can kind of map things out. Now, if during that time you move across the country, you decide to have a kid, you decide to change your career, or something happens in your life and you need to take longer, you're totally allowed to do that. And we would rather you take longer in this, degree path than stress yourself out and really have a difficult time. In the first year, just to sort of map out what it would look like, you would be taking these online core courses that I mentioned earlier. So this is for the AIP and the GFB. So the course you would take in the fall semester would be Conservation Science and Community. It's 3 credit hours. The assignments, they're all laid out before, right at the start of the term. So you know everything. You can put it in your calendar. You can work ahead. There's no real exams or anything like that because this is a graduate program. So we're really looking at your thought and your higher level problem solving. A lot of the assignments are asking you to connect with people in your community to design a project to fulfill some sort of need or some sort of thing that's going on. And you identify that. So it's self-driven. And then you can see the other names of the courses here. There is an evolution course. We think it's, foundational and important for everyone to have an understanding of evolution. There's a course with a sort of a technology focus, and then some publishing, science leadership type courses as well. So this is just kind of showing you the type of content that you would have there. Okay, before we get into the application tips, let's see if we can answer some of these questions. Sharon, do you want to jump in with any of them? We can answer live in the Q&A.
Sure. I was trying to catch up typing, but it's probably easier to answer some of that. Yeah. Actually, Kevin, do you want to answer the question about transferring credits?
Yeah. Let's see. So thank you for that question. So yeah, can any credits get transferred? Really, it's only within the programs that we have here for the most part. So it's like in some cases we have people that didn't apply to the either master's program, but they took a standalone course beforehand. They can transfer those credits in. But if it's like, elsewhere, a different kind of graduate program, we don't accept those. I will say we also look for a biology that you've had at least a 3-credit. I mentioned you don't have to be a bio major, but we will look for some sort of 3-credit hour biology course in your undergraduate studies. And if you don't have something like that, it's totally fine. You can apply, but we do offer a 3-credit hour version that will sort of give you some of the fundamentals if you're coming in without much of a bio background.
And if I could add to that, I took that class. I came in with probably every other science except a biology foundation. And the class that Miami offers to fill that requirement is an excellent class that connects a lot of the concepts that you're talking about throughout the program too. So it's not like you're falling back to freshman basic bio and being disconnected from the program. It is very integrated into a lot of the ideas that you will use throughout the program. It's a very helpful class.
Great. And then there was a question about the master's capstone course. So I'll just say that this is not, these master's programs are not thesis based. You're not going to write a research thesis, but you are going to create a portfolio. And the portfolio is going to be sort of a collection of all the things you've done in the program. It's going to showcase many of the successes you've had, but also potentially some of the things you've been challenged by, and that's fine too. And that's what that final course is about, is creating that portfolio that serves as your final graduation requirements for getting that degree from Miami University.
And if I could add to that, once I did start applying for positions after completing the program, several of the employers asked specifically for a portfolio, and it was really nice to already have that, to be able to present from the GFP program and, graduating and not having to go back to square one and developing that along the way, and including many of the works that I had done in the program in that. So it's a great tool to walk away from graduation with, to be able to pursue whatever your next steps are.
Great. Okay. I know there are more questions, but I do want to keep it moving for those that had an allotted amount of time. So let's move on to application tips. Start early. That's the best thing, is that the due date is January 28th for the GFP, and for the advanced inquiry program, it's February 28th. But for many people, some people have already submitted their applications. If you're in that boat, great. But a lot of human nature is to let it wait. And it does take time to get transcripts from your undergraduate institution. It does take time to secure recommendation letters and to be considerate to those writing a letter for you. We do ask for 2 recommendation letters to be submitted in the application portal. When you're thinking about those references, think professional. So, if you can find someone you work with, that's great. Now, we've had some people that have been out of work for years, and actually that's fine. Maybe you were a caregiver, maybe you were doing some very, very important things, but you just don't have that kind of work-related reference. In that case, just find who can speak to you as a person, and make that clear in your application, your unique scenario. If you're straight out of college, you're going to think about professors, so just kind of doing your best with that to find some professional references. And they will get reminders in the system. Once you put in their name and you submit it all into the application, they will get reminders to submit, but you can always be considerate and help them do that. And then you have 2 essays you'll submit in the application. So with those 2 essays, they're short. They're about 250 words max for each of them. Just think about this program, read our websites, talk to, many of you know someone who's been in this program. So talk to them, right? And get a full sense of the program, and start brainstorming, maybe even journal beforehand or write some notes. What do I think I could do with this program in my life? And then share that with us. And that shows that kind of forethought, the thinking. If you're not directly working with nature or conservation right now, that's fine. We've had people in the service industry, because the economy is crazy, and that's where they were, but they joined this program because they have a love of these things and they want to shift at some point. Totally fine. In that case, if you have some volunteer work or if you want to start volunteering, mention that on your resume, mention that your hobbies and your passions as a part of it, so we understand why you're joining this program. And then, of course, proofread and revise. No one wants to see a typo in an essay. Ask some friends or family if they can proofread too. That's always a good idea.
If I could share, Kevin, I came into this program as a career change. I had been working actually in youth and family ministry and community connectivity on that level, and just really drew in after a mission trip to Tanzania, the nature aspect of it and the idea of eco-theology and how we can connect people and communities to each other in different places. So definitely does not have to be that you're coming straight to it from a biology or conservation background by any means.
Totally. Thank you for that. Yes. And resume, for some of you, depending on your career and where you've been, it's dusting off that resume or trying to find it where you might have it. But yeah, check that out too. We do look at the resumes. And then for the AIP applicants, please attend, definitely attend. Sharon will tell you this as being the person at one of the people at Jacksonville Zoo. It's great to attend those info sessions or open houses they're going to run at pretty much every one of our AIP locations. So go to that website. You're going to Google AIP, Project Dragonfly, Jacksonville Zoo, or Cleveland Metro Park Zoo, whichever of those locations you're looking to, and then get on their website and find when they're doing open houses and sign up. There is a requirement of an undergraduate GPA of 275. I think that is something we always need to take into context of why someone may have had a lower GPA though. And we will petition for exceptional applications. We understand that some people were working a job in undergraduate. Some people were dealing with some major issues. So a lot of times when we see a lower GPA, we want to know more about that person, what was going on. And if you can help us by including that in your application or emailing us beforehand, please feel free to do that, because we don't want that to prevent anyone that's a perfect fit for this program from joining, especially if it's been a number of years since you were an undergrad. So keep that in mind as well. And if you have a 4.0, we'll accept you too. Okay, so this is just a final quote. I've learned so many amazing things, not just about the places I've been, but about myself and my own capabilities. We hope that's what you get out of this program. If you apply, if you join, it really is about the journey. You're going to get a lot of technical skills, but you're going to get a lot of these sort of confidence building, leadership building things as well. And a lot of the mentality is about stepping out of your comfort zone. So if you're joining tonight and you're a little bit like, graduate school, really? Do I want to do this? I mean, life does begin, as they say, when you step out of your comfort zone. And I think, this program can do some really amazing things for folks. So please contact us. Maybe Sharon and I will also put our direct emails in the chat for any of you that are attending tonight, in case you want to directly follow up with us. You certainly can. So let me do that now. And then we will, as promised, be going through these questions. But if you, need to get to other things, we know people are busy. Feel free to pop off if you need to. We won't be offended. But again, if you want to stay on, we're going to get into the questions. And let me just stop sharing for a second here. One last thing I would say also, I'm going to really encourage everyone to, if you're really thinking about these programs, please do fill out our, it's called our I'm interested form. And I'm just going to share this screen one more time. I think Sharon, you guys can see that now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the first step for the AIP or the GFP is to let us know you're applying. And maybe some of you that joined us tonight have already done this. but if you click, it's going to take you to this page with these penguins. If you're at the penguins, you're in the right place. And you're going to fill out this information. Now, if you're not sure, like some people might want to apply for more than one program, you can check them all. But that said, think about it. If you know you pretty much want to do one or the other, click it. That'll help us as we get information to you all. And then there's just a few little drop downs and things for you, and then click submit. So I'm going to put this in the chat as well and encourage you all to, if you haven't already done this, please, please, please do this if you're really thinking about the program. Okay. Again, thanks for attending. If you're going to pop off, but let's go through these questions if you're still here. Oh, and the last thing I also wanted to say is happy Bilbo and Frodo's birthday, because I learned that today, and it's an important thing to say at this point. It's truly, according to Tolkien, it is their birthday today. Okay, Sharon, what questions have we missed?
Kevin, can you address why it's called Project Dragonfly?
Yeah, it was just, I think it was just the idea of a project, right? Was enticing. And then dragonflies, I think it's pretty cool. They do go through metamorphosis, and they change from an aquatic lifestyle to an aerial lifestyle. I just think I was not a part of that. That predates me. And then also, I should also mention, we had a national magazine called Dragonfly Magazine, which was kind of like, maybe some people even knew about this, but it was for kids predominantly, and it featured their own investigations and put them on the same level as like well-known scientists. Like Jane Goodall wrote for Dragonfly Magazine, and then there was like a kid who wrote an article next to her article. So the whole idea was to elevate children as scientists and show them what that could look like. So it's all a part of the history that's morphed into these graduate programs.
We had a question about, is there a choice between Baja and Belize for the first year? Is that determined for those first year students?
Yeah, so it's Baja, Belize, or Brazil, actually. So the three Bs, right, for GFP. And I would just say we always, for some reason, tend to get more applications for Belize, and Belize is absolutely amazing. But all these courses you cannot lose. People always ask me, what's your favorite one? And I'm like, whichever one I was just on, because it just blows my mind. Baja is an unforgettable experience. And then Brazil, I mean, Golden Lions, Tamarins. So a lot of bucket list options. Baja also, whale sharks, the desert. It's just absolutely amazing. It really, makes life so special to be a part of these things.
I think that answers a little bit, but there's a question that says, what's usually done on the Earth expeditions?
Yeah, so so it's really cool. We meet at an airport, in most cases, right? On the other side of the world, after like being online and doing a Zoom or something, and you're kind of like, really, am I getting on a plane and flying to Mongolia? And it works. We meet up in sometimes a hotel lobby that we've chosen. Is all the information is laid out, all the information about what extra visas you might have to get for travel, what vaccinations or immunizations, those sorts of things. So we have a lot of support for that. You all are supporting each other as you're preparing, and then we meet up, and then we just go off. And the cool thing about those trips is that we have in-country experts that join us, right? So it's not like just going with a professor that's from the US and maybe goes down to Costa Rica once a year. Yes, you will travel with instructors from Miami, but you'll get down there and you'll be meeting with people that live in the country, speak the language, know the customs, drive, the vehicles, and help us get around, but also are sharing on equal footing, are sharing their knowledge in these courses. That's what's just critical.
Let's see. Somebody asked about they're not prepared to be able to take an EE next summer, and we're wondering if they should wait another year to apply to the program if that's the case.
You can apply, and then you can, if you get in, you can then have your, what's the term? There's a term for this, but you can push your admission. What's up?
To defer?
Yeah, you can defer and push to the next year. So well, I would recommend that for anyone who's not sure. And obviously we've lived with so much uncertainty with COVID. And, so what I would recommend is if you think this is going to work and you're excited, you think you might be able to do it, just apply. If you get in and you can't make it in the end, you can defer and we can get you in the next year.
Somebody wanted clarification on the overall cost of the GFP program, that it was approximately $15,000.
Yeah, and it's so if you go to I think the way to do that, well, there's a few different ways you can sort of calculate it, but if you choose, like, say, choose Baja, right, and you go on our website, earthexpeditions.org, and you go to find Baja course, you click on it, you see the course costs, and I think its total cost is somewhere around $3,200 for the tuition and the in-country, room and board and everything. And then you got to calculate your flight wherever you live, so you can do that on your own. You can add that, right? And you can do the same for the other 2 trips you're interested in. You can add that all up. And then you're going to essentially add, because that's going to add 21 credit hours, right? So then you can do 14 credit hours. And our current tuition rate for the purely online courses is about $400 a credit hour. So you're going to do 14 times 400. And again, I should mention that is lower than in-state tuition for a public university like Miami, for no matter where you live. So we're trying to do our best to keep the rates down. The rates will go up a little bit in 2014. We're going to do everything we can to keep them as low as possible so that people can join.
Someone asked about access to the recording of this. They just jumped on and would like to be able to see.
Oh yeah. I think we can do that. Yeah, we're gonna share it. I think Zoom might automatically, who knows, do it. But if not, we're gonna put it on YouTube and we'll share it, and then people can watch it. Yep.
Someone asked about the difference between the Belize, Baja, and Brazil classes. And I would check out the website, and it gives a really nice explanation of each one of them, not only those, but the rest of the trips as well, so that you can see what the focus is of each one of those different trips, not just the location idea itself, but the specifics of the conservation partners that you'll connect with, and some of the things that you'll be doing on that trip, as well as photographs of what went on that trip on the site too. So that's a great way to be able to get a lot of those specifics.
Totally. Yeah.
I think that's most.
The way that all works also is, like, you all will give us your preferences for where you want to travel, what works with your dates, and we'll do our best. It's kind of I'm sure you can appreciate the puzzle that this is, putting everyone in the best spots, but we try our best to get people in their top choices, right? Give them an option. And then if you get an option, you're like, you know what, this doesn't work, we will keep working with you all to find one that does. Some other good questions, acceptance rate in the program. So of recent years, it's been fairly high, which I'm actually proud to say. I think when I started working, I was like, oh, I want to make this elite program that only the best can get into. And as I've gone through it in years, I'm like, this program tends to self-select for people that are good fits. So if you're on this call, I think you're probably great for the program. And if you want to do this, I think we're going to do what we can to get you in. Now, that said, I mean, we do have quote, like, sort of caps in some of the locations. There's only so many people we can fit on a bus or in a zoo classroom. So there is that. So it's not everyone, but we do our best to get folks in if they seem like they're passionate and excited about the program.
Kevin, there was a question about the size of the different cohorts.
Yeah. Well, you want to answer that for Jacksonville. I mean, Jacksonville is kind of small, but you probably have a sense of how it is for the AIP in general across.
Yeah, it really varies based on the location and the facilities that are available. Our classes vary from the specific classes, not the cohort, but a specific class varies between like 10 and 16 in a class. So it really gives us the availability to be mobile with the class and do lots of in-community events and things, and connections with different conservation partners in the local community as well as the bigger community because of that class size. I know some of the other facilities have a little bit larger classes in the 20s, but definitely not, a tremendous number in each class. And we're growing, so.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great answer. And it's, yeah, so there's that, like in Bronx Zoo, I saw this question about that. What are the numbers there? I want to say they bring in about 25 students per year to each cohort. And there's essentially like, sort of two main staff on site there at the Bronx Zoo, but then they have that are helping facilitate those experiences. So I'm not sure if that's what you meant by teachers. Within most of Dragonfly now, like actual classroom educators as participants, right, are about a quarter. So about 1 in 4. Some locations it's a little higher, 1 in 3. It just depends on the school systems. It depends on your state. If you are a classroom educator, you might want to look into the requirements of your state and what it is to get your pay scale increases and all that stuff. Make sure you have all that set, your supervisor's aware, especially if you can get some tuition coverage for this. Those of you, even if actually many zoos I saw a bunch of zookeepers, ask your employer, do you have any money to support if I go into a graduate program, and see what's available, because you might get some funds.
I know Jacksonville does offer that, so.
Awesome. Yeah.
And we have probably about, I'd say in general, in our classes, about a third in the zoo field of some sort, a third probably in teaching of some sort, and then a third other, and lots of different other, which is really dynamic for conversations and being able to reflect and have insight into different aspects of what we're talking about in class.
Nice. Yeah. At some point it was like, some dean at Miami said to us, like, why don't you have all the teachers in one class and all the new people in another? And it's like, no, because like the best learning is when people start talking to each other outside of in different careers or different life experiences. So anyway.
And I think there is a little, hesitation by some folks that are coming into it that aren't coming from either a zoo or teaching background. And I just highly encourage you that once they finally get into the class and start having those conversations, it couldn't be more of an asset to all of us to be able to have those diversity of dynamics from where people are coming from, because it adds so much more voice to the table.
Woodland Park Zoo program, it really depends on the year. There's a question about how are there more applicants than spaces, and there have been some years, but a lot of cases there's space there. So I think probably unless we get a huge post-COVID boom this year, I think there's going to be probably spots there for qualified applicants. And there was a question about, does the GPA requirement stand if you're just doing a standalone Earth expeditions? And yeah, actually there is no GPA requirement if you're just taking a standalone course with us, and not in the master's program. So that can be a good way if you're kind of like, oh, I think I want to do this, or let me try it out. Let me take an Earth expeditions, or let me go to Jacksonville and take a 3-credit-hour regional ecology course searching for striped newts or whatever.
Yep.
And see how it goes. And then you can apply and transfer those credits in if you do want to get in the master's program later.
There was that question about post-program job prospects and if former students would be willing to discuss. I would reach out to any one of the AIP sites and have a conversation with the advisor or facilitator at that site, and they could either connect you with some students that would be willing to have that kind of conversation, or else be able to share their own experiences from the students that they have known going through the program and where the journey that's taken them after the program.
Totally, totally. Yeah, that's that. I think hearing from people. So keep, exploring, because we have 960 students in the program currently. We got a lot of people. We've got about 2,000 alumni. I'd say pretty much well, any major zoo, and certainly many school districts, many nature centers and such. You would be surprised that there may very well be a Dragonfly person there that you can talk to, and we can get you in contact. So you can email Sharon, myself. You can come reach out to your local zoo if you're going to go for that program, and get some contacts. It is good to talk to current students and graduates, and Sharon's lent her perspective, but it's good to get more. So
Absolutely.
I just want to give a shout out. I love this question about, the last time I took Miami graduate level course was 1988. Someone was asking us, being out of school, pre-computer era, the learning management system we use, we try to make it, friendly. We're not trying to make it so that it's super confusing and difficult for people. That said, the last 2 years, I mean, everyone now has gotten so much more comfortable with Zoom and different things. So there's a lot we can do online. But anyway, regardless of how long you've been out of school, or if we have some people now, actually, we have these programs. Some of our Earth expeditions we're opening up to undergrads who have a certain number of credit hours, and they can join and be a part of that experience too. So all different ages and experience is welcome. I know we've said that about 1 million times.
I know. Well, and if I can add to that too, we're here to help facilitate you through the program when it comes to maybe some of those challenges when it comes to the technology, and are more than happy to sit down and work through some of those things if you do hit any roadblocks along the way. I know we had a student that was not familiar with how to use Google Docs, and so we just, sat down with her and worked her through it, and she's doing great now. And I know at our onsite at Jacksonville Zoo, when we do have the in-person classes, we very much focus on getting off the computer and emerging into, life connections with conservation partners and with each other, and with all the things that go on during those days. So the Computer Connect is not a constant throughout the entire program when it comes to your on-site learning experiences in AIP and of course in GFP when you're out in the field. I don't anticipate you being in Galapagos walking around with a computer, that's for sure.
Okay, and then there's a question. Yeah, we have a lot of people interested in who are vets, veterinarians. So there's a question we're seeing here about, is wildlife veterinary field experience beneficial as an applicant? Totally. That's wonderful. Now, I will say, I mean, this program, some people that really want to work directly with animals, this is not like going to give you training of how to incapacitate or how to handle, a sea lion, for example. You will be at the zoo or botanical gardens, right? Locations. If you're in the AIP, you will, if you're a part of the GFP, you'll be seeing these animals in the wild, and that gives valuable experience. But anyway, coming in with vet experience, wonderful for this program. I think that's great. And then we have the opposite, which is people that want to head that direction. They want to get a master's so they can go into vet school. And I think this program is solid for that. Just understand, you're not going to get that like super specific technical experience of like drawing blood from animals or anything from this program. But it can be a segue. So, okay, well, thanks if you joined amidst hurricane, as I was seeing in the chat, and all the other things. I'm so glad many of you have alumni and people that you can talk to. Again, reach out to us at any time. We're here to help. We're excited for you. And I think we'll wrap it up, because I think we've gone through most of the questions. But again, feel free to reach out at any time, and we're just so glad you guys could join tonight. Any last words, Sharon? Anything else you want to say?
Just please reach out. We're here to answer questions and clarify anything if you have any doubts about anything or anything seems confusing, and just adventure on.
Adventure on. I love it. Okay, thanks, and take care, everyone. Have a good night. Thanks for joining.